call the council meeting to order. If you would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, do we have a quorum present?
We do.
All right, thank you very much. We don't have any proclamations for tonight, so we'll move over to the review and approval of the minutes from November 4th.
Hey Stan, can you move your phone away from that microphone a bit?
I'm making it squeak.
Well, I can tell everything looks good, so I'll make a motion to accept as written. Second.
All right, Stan has the first, Tom has the second. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. So we will enter into our public hearing to go over the first reading for the fiscal year 2023 budget. As a reminder, this is the first reading. We will have the second reading in January, which will meet our charter requirements to pass the new budget within so many days of the previous budget period ending. Long story short on this budget is we are running at about on average a 15% increase. We're going to go from a total of 260 to about 299, 298. There is a little bit of fluctuation just as we are working out the numbers. For the budget, we have the income accounts on the first page and then expense accounts on the second page. Just talking again in generalities, some of the differences for the expenses in 23 is we are planning on doing a couple of things. We are going to upgrade a couple of positions, for, both at an hourly total and also in a title change. Another thing that we are going to do is we're going to split Angie's duties. Well, we would like to split Angie's duties and have a community center coordinator that does everything here, and then also a librarian that operates the programs out of the library. That'll allow us, I think, to better serve the citizens and population, and then it also rewards our staff for the hard work that they've done. Julie's hours will increase. Angie's hour total. I'm sorry.
Julie's hours will not increase, but her rate of pay will.
Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, go ahead, Floyd. I'll let you.
No, it's okay. You're on the right track. So
Okay.
You want me to continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. So if we're talking personnel, then it would be that year would represent about a 4% raise to my salary. It would represent a 15% raise to Julie's salary, but it should be stated that she really did not receive one last year at all.
Yes.
And then again, it does split, as Blue was saying, it'll split the joint position that we have, a community center librarian. It will split those apart so that we'll have two part-timers. They have more hours individually than what Angie is doing collectively, but the rate of pay will remain the same at $12 an hour.
Some of the other things that we're going to do in 23, we are budgeting for lawn care and/or roadside trimming. We will not have a public works employee do it like we tried to do in 22. We are going to order some new fixtures and furniture for the community center. We want to upgrade our tables and chairs to something that's a little more modern, I guess. Upscale, I guess, would be a little bit easier to
They'll
move.
be a lot lighter too.
And they will be a lot
It'll
lighter.
be lighter, you can fold them. One of the big complaints we get with the community centers is that these tables are heavy and they're bulky and you can't do anything with them.
Right.
He's been here for a long time.
Yes, they
You got any
have.
idea when that might happen?
What was the
I would,
question?
when it would happen, I'd like to order them in
As soon as the budget
December,
passes.
January.
Yeah, as soon as.
Yeah.
As soon as what?
Budget passes.
So we'll probably order in January, and so as a council, we will have to think of how we want to or need to surplus these tables in here.
You already done it. You agreed to pay Mary for her decorating expertise with the tables.
Yes, but we have to pass that through council. I can't, we have to surplus it, and then we can do it like that.
We're gonna keep the existing chairs? Or we're gonna get new chairs too?
These chairs, I'm noticing, you may even see some of your own chairs are starting to get rips in them. It's just as we continually use them, they're getting
We
worn.
use a lot of them, but,
Yeah.
they're still pretty heavy too.
They are. We could probably go through, sort out the good ones, put the good ones into storage, the ones that are getting ripped and more mangled, we could probably go ahead and surplus those.
Yeah, using overflow.
Okay. Floyd, was there anything else outside of personnel and furniture fixtures that was especially different from last year?
Yes, so you have, sort of note is that you have, I just gotta land my eyes on it. Professional services, code enforcement, audio. Code enforcement, we bumped up, it was at 500. We bumped it up to 2,000. Correspondingly, municipal court expenditures was also at 500 at one point. We bumped that up to 2,000. As it's gonna be the first effort to start raising those two together. I also have some quotes that I'm reviewing right now from Safe Built as well about getting code enforcement on a more steady basis. That's going to be coming as I'm negotiating right now. I've raised travel and I've raised education training to start bringing education back to our staff and keeping our certifications going. I've got that as well. Outside of that, dues and fees have raised up a little bit as well because we keep running a negative budget on some of that. And repairs and maintenance to your building, it's got up to 30,500 from a previously approved 10,000. But that number is much more than you're anticipating because of the work that is actually going on right now that will be paid out next year after budget is approved. So that's 22 grand right there. That's going to go up on that. So there are expenditures that we're anticipating that are above and beyond. But on the other hand, some of the things that we anticipate coming down, we took out completely. There was no expenditure at all on employee benefits or insurance. So that's 8,000 that we saved. There is no employee benefit in this regard. For legal services, budgeted last year at 14 grand. We're going to probably be closer to about 7,500 in fees. But I kept it at 12 because as we start looking toward codification, we're going to be talking to you, Brad, about that as well. And how does that play into it? Accounting fees, we lowered the cost on that from 13 down to 8. So we're really starting to whittle down where we need to and increasing where we need to as well. And I'll be glad to answer any line item if you see something that stands out to you.
You're increasing your lawn care and roadside trimming, that's a pretty good increase, but is that enough?
Well, it's based off the 2021 numbers. So it's enough from 2021. I spoke to Mayor prior to the meeting, and he indicated they may raise the prices a little bit higher. But if they do, that is something that has not come under discussion at my point yet. So this is based off of the 21 numbers.
And the only reason I say we may need to add a little bit more in there is I know Arbor Valley's costs have gone up, and I want to make sure that it reflects that since these are 21 numbers.
So, and again, this being first reading, we can bump the numbers higher if that's what you guys desire.
I don't know, I guess the best thing to do is address this stuff when it happens, but you could have, anything having to do with labor and fuel is going to go up.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and one
And you
thing,
may have covered enough, but it's still, I was around in the 70s. And I tell you what, it's jaw-dropping what could happen.
and one thing too, this may influence some of the decision making, but if you look at the very bottom of your expense, that's going to be your contingency. This year, we didn't even touch contingency. We had 7,786. We didn't even touch it. But this year, we're looking at a contingency of nearly 20 grand. So that's a cushion too. So we should go up with Arbor Valley or some other unexpected comes along. We have that cushion as well.
Well, we took money from a lot of different things instead of a contingency fund.
Well, we went over budget on some of that, which will come to a budget adjustment.
Yeah. Another thing about the personnel that I wanted to go ahead and, that I wanted to bring up and kind of, we're setting the stage, looking a couple years out, but I want to go ahead and, from a budget standpoint, start preparing for it. But we're also going to need some of Brad's expertise on this. We can't do it until an election, until before an election, but I want to raise the mayor's salary. Right now, the mayor's getting $100 a month, which is, you know, it pays for gas, but I would like to raise that to $1,000 a month, simply because I put in anywhere from 30 to sometimes 35 hours a week. I am not asking for the raise for myself, because I ran under something totally different, and everything that I've done it because I love the town. So I'm not asking for the money for me, but I'm asking for the money for future mayors to, number one, ease some of their burden, because sometimes the spouse can be concerned if you're spending a lot of time at a location and getting very little in return. So having a little bit more of a living wage would make that easier. The other thing is if we pay more, we can expect more from our mayors. And in order to continue to have a professional workforce that we've got with our administrator, our deputy administrator, our librarian and community center coordinator, it's just the next step. Now, whether we can put the $12,000 in the budget this year, I know that we can't spend it. I know that I can't just arbitrarily change my salary. It has to be done.
Well, it wouldn't go into effect till after the election
Okay.
anyway.
Okay, so that's the legal direction that I want to get from Brad.
Correct.
Like I said, I won't get the $12,000 that is in the budget for '23 under personnel, but I want to put it in there so there's the expectation next year and in future years that there is a line item for that.
And I'm going to fully support that too, by the way. And the number that I've projected for our projected expenses for personnel already includes that 12,000. So with that number already included, we may not go over 94. I mean, it may be, 76 grand. But at the end of the day, I do support that that's where we need to be as well. And we do have the funding to do that.
You're gonna get out of your mayor what their inclination is to give, whether you give them 1,000 or 100.
Right.
Or nothing. So, I have no problem giving them 1,000, but let's don't do it under the illusion that you're gonna get somebody's attention $1,000. Because let's face it, $1,000 times 12.
Was the budget of 12,000?
That's Heineken.
Yeah. It's a lot more Heinekens than,
Well, you know.
yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you're
I mean,
saying.
it's not gonna make or break anybody.
Right.
But it's just the idea of it is good.
Right, exactly. And so that 12 grand that we're talking about is above and beyond what Blue's already making right now. He's getting 100 that actually gets reinvested back in the Newport group. So outside of that, I think that would be
Do you think 1,000 is
exactly
enough?
right.
Because, I mean, this town's growing. And you putting down, of course, I know you working your butt off.
Yeah, I think it's a good intermediate step. And one of the things that we may need to think about in a handful of years is looking at maybe a city manager. I mean, we've already got a town administrator.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be that big of a step from an administrator to a city manager. But if you get up to a city manager, though, you're looking at 50, 60, 70 grand a year.
Today.
Today, yes, and that's not even counting in 4 or 5 years, whatever it's going to be. It's certainly better than the $100 a month, which originally was just for gas and mileage to offset some of the actual fuel costs. It wasn't meant as a salary, it wasn't meant as compensation. It's just a little bit of a reambrsment for gas.
Expenses, yeah.
Expenses.
I think we should put that in when Wendell was here.
It was. Yes, sir. I think his second term, I think it had to have been his second term. But it's more of a planning thing at this point, and just continue to professionalize the town. I mean,
So I'm good with where we're at with that too. So my thinking is we just keep it as recommended at 94, understanding that 12,000 1,200 of that. I'm not getting my, it's 12,000,
Yeah,
will not be
12
spent.
1,200,
Will not be
yeah.
spent. But understanding that we're line iteming it in here so that in the coming year, should it be approved, that we can actually already have it budgeted in.
And then two, if you consider that $12,000 that's in that line item and the almost $20,000 in contingency, that gives us 32,000 in cushion, for lack of a better word. And like Floyd said, we haven't dipped into our contingencies in the last,
I think the last I saw, and
Well-
forgive me, I think 2020 perhaps had some contingency
we
spending,
pulled out, okay.
but I can pull the numbers quickly.
Yeah. So staff does a great job, and even though it's at the 298 total budget, we still have, like I said, about 30 grand in cushion.
All right,
Yes, sir.
that's a good segue into what I was going to report at the end. Have you got the election budgeted?
No, but do we, okay, that's gonna come a question. Do we, my experience with election budgets is that there's not much of an election budget, so I haven't even, but that's why we have the first hearing.
You got to
so-
remember, that this election is in the off year. All right, so the election superintendent will hold the election just for the town.
Okay,
And so you will need to pay them under the contract that we have to hold the election. So you need to get with
I need to find out then from,
Ms. Gay.
where they're coming at.
Yeah, you need to get with Ms. Gay and find out what her, and the way it's budgeted is based on the cost. So if they assign 2 machines, 3 poll workers, whatever it takes to have people
Okay.
be able to check the voters in and vote.
But we
That
don't
is
have,
interesting.
we don't have an election in '23.
We do.
Yes,
We have
we
a
do.
municipal election. Yes, sir.
The mayor, and I think Stan
And Tom,
and Tom.
Tom.
Those two. In fact, at the
In
January,
November of '23?
Yes, sir.
November
You're
20th.
standing for election in November.
How long how long were we elected?
No, we have another year.
No.
This January starts our final year.
23.
23.
That's right.
That'll
The
be
election
next-
is in
Yeah.
November of 23.
this people is taking over 2024.
Okay, I see
For
what
the
you're
3 of
saying.
y'all, all right? Y'all's qualifying fee is $25 because you don't get a salary. The mayor's qualifying fee is $36.
It's 50.
Because the qualifying fee is 3% of the salary. And so your salary is $1,200, so that's $36.
Okay.
Right.
I paid 50.
Huh?
Order of magnitude, what's the election gonna cost us?
Well, I went back and looked when I was projecting this. I didn't see anything about the
1,500,
election.
5,000, what?
Is anything else gonna be
I
on the
don't know.
ballot in November, Brad?
Oh, yes.
County,
So
city?
that's what you got to do. Now, this is going to be.
That's what I was saying.
What I understand, and this is the next part of it, if it was just the standalone election, it could cost you $46,000.
Right.
Okay. Now, because of what.
46,000?
426.
426, okay. I was about to say, well, that scraps that, okay.
Now, that's what I say potentially. But it is anticipated that the county is going to call for the new SPLOST
SPLOST.
election in November. So if it's in November, then you're going to have your folks here anyway, and the only added expense for the town is to create the ballots.
That may be why I didn't see, because when I went back and looked at my previous budgets, I didn't see expenditure for elections at all. So that may explain possibly some.
Is that the only other thing that would be on the ballot? There's no other public offices up for election in the county?
Well,
Well,
City of
probably
Newton's
can't.
got an election, Grantville done there in Eden.
They just had
But
theirs.
countywide,
Savoy.
just the,
But countywide will only be the,
SPLOST.
SPLOST, yeah.
Well, they could add other things to it though, couldn't they?
Pardon?
They could add other things to it. If we're using the same rationale with us, I mean, it's
Well,
it'd be
so, I
cheaper.
mean, if they wanted to, but I mean, right now, we're all beyond that. I mean, everybody's had the, unless, well, you have to wait 2 years. And that may be 2 years. What did we do? No, we did the alcohol earlier. You
Was
have to
last
wait
year.
2 years before you can do it again, if it failed. So, but yeah, I mean, but as far as countywide is concerned, the SPLOST would be the only thing they would add.
So I need to talk to Ashley and see what they
Yeah.
project.
Yeah, call Ashley and just
Okay.
see.
Where's the 12,000 for?
They have not officially
It's
said
included in
that,
that 94.
unofficially,
And I don't know where he
that's
has
what
his
they're
breakdown.
talking about.
Okay,
Wait.
including the personnel service?
Gotcha.
Yes, sir, it's all included in there.
Okay.
And he has a breakdown with everybody's salary and how much it is.
You're looking for the breakdown of salary?
Mhm.
Right here.
He's got it.
Just-
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's right. I guess with 23 being our last year, we're going to qualify in August,
Correct.
vote in November, and then take office
In January.
January. Okay.
And that's why we need to go ahead, and if you're gonna raise the salary, we need to go ahead and do it now, because there is some limit that you can't change. You see, it's a charter change to be able to do that, because that's where the salary is in the charter. And when you raise salaries, you have to follow the same procedure
Okay.
as you do in charter change anyway. But, so we would have to do that. And I think it's 6 months. In other words, you can't change it. I know you can't try and change it after qualifying.
Right.
But,
Okay.
so you need to get it done before qualifying begins. And qualifying, God,
It's either going to be
It's
March or August,
It would be August.
depending on
it's August the,
16th,
let
17th,
me think,
18th.
yeah, it's
usually.
probably August 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever that second Monday, or I forget what it is.
So what's the actual mechanics for changing the salary? We don't have to go to the legislature, do we?
No,
Okay.
it's a charter change by home rule.
Okay.
So you have to go through, you have to publish it, unlike any other ordinance, with a charter change like that, or the compensation change, you have to advertise it, you have to hold 2 public hearings. And in y'all's case, I mean, it's probably, I don't know, you could kind of do it however you wanted to, but it's gonna take you 2 readings. And so,
It's an ordinance.
unless you have a special meeting, in other words, you're going over a 3-month period, basically, to get it done.
So if I'm hearing how we should do this, then we approve the budget, saying 12 grand, just to get a line item. And then January, roughly after the budget's approved, we'll start working on getting the 3 public hearings.
I mean, you can do it, doesn't matter what the budget is. I think that thing do it, because it doesn't get paid out this year anyway.
Right.
It won't get paid out till January.
Okay,
So that'll be in your next budget.
be in the next round.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
okay.
Is there anything in the budget that you got, well, let me rephrase that. Is there anything in 23 that you guys, anything extra in 23 that you guys want to do, other than some of the stuff that we've already talked about? I know one of the things that I would like to do for the next holiday season, I'd like to identify some light poles and do some of the decorations that attach to the poles that have the glitter and the wire and the lights, and we mount them to the telephone poles, and they're on some of the bigger highways, in addition to what we're doing here in downtown.
And also, Lou and I talked about this also, that we're looking at getting some quotes on Christmas decorations, essentially, too. Whether we do it or not, it might be good just to at least know what the cost is to get professionalism done with that, too.
To have somebody do it.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they have the decorations, they'll give you the lights, and they'll put them up, their lights.
They
Really?
put up
Take
their-
down their lights and store their lights.
Yeah, but it ain't
Well,
gonna
that's the
stay
first quote we
entire
had.
road, though, is it?
Yeah, that's our first quote that we had, was that. So, yeah. But that's also something we're looking at, so that will be.
Probably personalized stuff.
Yeah, that'll be
But
forthcoming.
we were looking at that, and
Yeah.
that just, yeah.
On this garbage disposal, I thought that was paid with our property taxes.
Well, so.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
included-
yeah.
I mean, we got Sharpsburg City taxes we pay, it's on the county bill.
And that is,
That's not included in this?
it is, but it comes out in the wash because our property taxes are over here on the incomes. So it is, but
Okay.
We don't have
I got
it
you, that's why I
broken out
was looking
over
for
here.
that's something else, okay, yep.
but I do kind of see what you're saying, because the garbage disposal is more than what our property taxes are. Well, not by much, for the projections anyway. Because back when we did the municipal tax, that was one of the services that we said would be provided and that we provided.
Yeah, I mean, that had to be included, yeah, I thought it was already paid
Yeah.
for, by that tax.
Yeah, you can assign that. I mean, it comes out in the wash, but yeah,
Yeah.
you could say that those amounts are pretty close. And that price does not include renegotiating any contracts. This is just our GFL contract with the built-in increase.
Right.
COA.
Did you put anything in there for, at one point we had talked about having a spring cleaning day, a dumpster?
No, there is no budget for that.
Nothing in there?
Other than if we wanted to do under, like, say, general supplies and materials or something like that. But there's not really gonna be, unless we're actually cleaning something of the towns, there's not gonna be any charge for the dumpster. They'll bring it for free. We get the dumpster for free.
Well, what I was thinking along the lines of is, and it sprung out of some of the sofas that been lying around.
Yeah.
That to have a couple of times a year where people could bring big stuff that they normally wouldn't sit out, throw it in a dumpster.
Right.
Lawnmowers and
Yeah.
weed, big stuff.
What do you do with that, the people that are not Sharpsburg residents throwing stuff in the dumpster? Just curious.
To me, it'd be the cost of doing business.
Yeah,
Okay.
we would hope that someone wouldn't take advantage of us, but we're not gonna pay extra to monitor and enforce it.
Yeah.
What about if you had a recycle day in with that, where they could bring the old paints and things that are.
Yeah, we could probably incorporate it into that.
Do that second little dumpster. Yeah.
And even if GFL doesn't have the capacity, I know that there are other disposal providers that would probably certainly be willing to do it.
Well, I brought it up because we had talked about it and that's one of the things I was kind of hot on.
Yeah.
I just want to see if we had any money set aside to do that.
We don't have any specifically set aside just in a little
Nothing
pot for it, but we've got the money in the general fund. And, I mean, we could even, if we wanted to keep with this 298 number and kind of flex a little bit, we can find the $3 or $4 or $5 grand it's gonna take to do that.
Think it'd be that much?
Probably not.
I doubt it.
I mean,
I
I'm
mean, I-
bragging at it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how much it'll cost, but I doubt it'll be $5,000.
Because I get a
I don't think
dumpster.
so either.
I mean, this is just off the
$400
cuff
a
comment.
load?
Yeah, I get a dumpster a couple times a year. It's about $400 or $500 bucks, and that's up.
Yeah. It used to be 300 a load to dump.
Well, this was first reading so far, and so if you find that you want to tweak it, you have an idea, you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, come in the door, and we can tweak numbers. We can always do that as part of our first reading.
Well, this decimal
We can do
point
that.
thing is gonna wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I wake up at 2 thinking about this stuff. So, we didn't talk about one other is the SPOS budget. And actually, this is going to bring a question up that Blue raised that I think may require Brad's input perhaps a little bit. If you look at how we did the SPOS budget, if you look at approved budgets in 2019 all the way through last year, the number remained the same at 57 grand. And the thought behind it is that's what the agreement actually says is 57 grand. If you look at reality, what we get, we're projecting we're going to get close to 97 grand by the end of this year. So we can either say budget bumps to 97 or we keep it at 57, but I want you to see there is a big distinction here between what's been approved versus what we're receiving now. And I don't know, what has come up as part of our discussion is, can we budget for, say, 97 grand? Or do we need to keep it at 57?
What about taking the last 4 years that you have there, average them out, and go with that?
I thought about that too, but they're a little bit different in the sense that that first year it went up by 2, the next one by 24%. And so what I did is I based it off of the 21 increase and the 22, and I called it a 5%.
Look like the average is gonna be about right at 70,000, just looking.
I'm thinking you're going to see probably more than that. Already this year alone, we've received 92 grand, and I just got a check today for, I want to say about another 8 grand. That
I
just
mean, how
came
do you
into my
budget
office.
it? I mean, you got to 57, it's gonna be more
So-
than that.
You can budget it toward the similar projects to what was in the agreement.
Which are for us, road, cultural and historical, and then parks and recreation. Are the 3 areas in
So-
the current
So
SPOS.
you can reallocate the budget as to, let's see how I say this, you're bound to spend the money, you're bound, B-O-U-N-D, not bound like you may, but bound to spend the money on those areas in which you identified the projects. You're not bound to the projected budget that was put in place at the time when you turned in for the original SPOS to allocate the SPOS percentages. So you can readjust the budget as long as you spend it in those particular areas.
Exactly.
And I want to say it's either 12 or 14,000 per area. And I think the 57,000 just came from the projections in 2017, 2018, when they were preparing for the 2019 SPLOST. And our total amount that we projected to get divided by 5 just equaled out to 57,000. From a budgeting philosophy, personally, I would, if we go back and change this 57, I'd put it at maybe 65, 70, and then when we get the 85 and the 90, it's just gravy. And it's just extra that we didn't anticipate, but we're budgeting at that 65 level, and anything extra is
I
over.
think looking at the last 3 years, you could go 70,000 easy and still be above.
You absolutely could. Yeah, so there's budgeting philosophies back and forth, and I certainly get where you're coming from. On the other hand, I'm looking at it saying, what do you anticipate you're going to get as well? And I think that we will easily hit that other mark too.
Yeah, I do too.
So I
And,
think
and I'll be honest, these are discussions that Floyd and I have been having. As the town grows, we will always be cautious with the public's money, but I don't think we will have to be as overly cautious as we have been. And what I mean by that is under budgeting and over receiving. I mean, as much as we talk about the money, you guys know that's how we do it. But now that we're getting bigger and getting more, some of that cushion is going to disappear because we're going to have more to do and need to do more.
Yeah.
So we're transitioning that way. Floyd wants to jump to it a little bit quicker, I think, than I do, but that's okay. I think he's right the way that he's doing it. Yeah. So it's just finding that space between my cautiousness and Floyd's realities with looking at the numbers.
Well, I'm good with calling it the 70 grand. That's why we're having the discussion.
Yep.
I'm good with it. I'm just showing you what I'm looking at and seeing it.
But at the same time, if the 2023 SPLOS comes in and they do the projections and it's twice the amount, that number is still going to go up because they'll divide our projected income into the number of years, and that gives us our budgets. I don't think that we will change this year to year like we do our general fund.
Right. One thing I do want to point out, though, you're going to have a lot of expenses that are going to come out of your SPLOS this year. A lot of them.
We're going to drain that.
Right. You're going to have the parking lot, which when I went back in the minutes, and you can see I actually referenced the minutes, that number bounced a little bit back and forth between 250 and 275. And then there was discussion that there may be actually coming in cheaper than what was first said. We haven't received the bill on it, so it's sort of hard to know where we land, but just knowing that's part of it. And then we have 2 quotes on the Beckham House demolition. I went with the highest of the 2. I don't know what the third will be, and that's another 12 grand. So you'll see that I'm projecting at least 287 grand coming out of our SPLOST. Here's the catch. The second to bottom line is our current bank statement, which means at some point that this year it would be anticipated that we're going to essentially have nothing in SPLOST. Nothing. And that may be we have to start borrowing from general fund to pay off some of this stuff. But if my projections are correct, then about this time next year, we're going to have back another 42 grand back in your SPLOST account. But there will be a date that's coming, as I see it, where I'll be telling the council we have nothing in the SPLOST account. So you need to bear that in mind too.
And of course, from an accounting perspective, we'll get clarity from Brad and the auditors, accountants on how to borrow from the general fund to repay the SPLOST. It's all about crossing our T's and dotting our I's. The money is there. We've got the money for the parking lot. We may just have to label it.
Well, yeah, in other words, you gotta be careful with the SPLOS, because technically the law says the only way you can borrow is to issue bonds.
Oh, okay, then we're not borrowing money
All right,
from
and
our
so
SPLOST
now,
account.
what you can do.
Strike that term, please.
I mean, we have done, I will say, some creative accounting at times on somewhat advanced funding is what we call it. We don't call it borrowing,
Yeah.
but advance funding some of the projects. But technically, if you want to borrow money, that's why when the county does the SPOS, they got that language in there that says everybody reserves the right to issue bond and indebtedness. So that, you know, theoretically, if you got $100 million coming in over a 10-year period, you go borrow that $100 million today and build all your projects. And then pay it back with the money that comes in from the supply.
Right.
So that's technically what the law says is the only thing you can do.
And then-
Because they don't want you raising property taxes to
Right.
come up with that money to turn around and fund your SPOS program.
Yeah.
All right, but we kind of have, you know, but you can always, if you got, you can always contribute. So in other words, out of your, if you look at it from the standpoint that if you need to finish projects, because technically out of 2023 money, you can't, you use your project. So if all your project costs come up to $120,000 and you need 125, you can always appropriate money and move it the other way.
And honestly, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, that may be a cleaner way to do it. We just pay, you know, if we pay the 287 and we've only got 231, then we'll just allocate the 50 whatever from the general fund towards the park project, and then we can even, in fact, we could even leave a little bit of money in the SPOS account just to not drain
Leave
it all the
something
way.
there, not just hit zero.
Yeah,
But that is something I need you guys to be aware of. That is coming,
yeah.
so.
But yeah, Floyd, thank you for putting in the work to do this budget. And I will say that this is a majority of a Floyd budget. I'm not saying that to pass the buck or anything, but I deliberately kind of stood back and let Floyd do a lot more of the budget this year than he has in years past. And I mean, it's right on the nose in quite a few places. So good job on that, Floyd. Thank you. All right, so since this is a public hearing, do we have any questions from the public about the budget or any comments regarding
Yes.
the budget? Please step forward and speak.
In the sake of continuity, and considering the fact that this is thinking toward the future, and considering, and I realize that usually the mayor has been in place for many, many years, back to continuity, I think it's time to consider, at least for the town administrator, and I'm talking because I don't know a thing about cost, health insurance. You came in, and we were lucky, we've been lucky twice to get two really good people. That may not always be the case. So I think it would be really beneficial if we could manage to keep our town administrator, whoever it happens to be at the time, long term. You're talking about annexing, so there'll be more people that might be, want your spot, or any other spot. And it's gonna be paved land, that might look really good to somebody, so somebody else may want to go. And back to continuity, I think it would be really good to have somebody here that's here a long time.
So the health insurance has been a point of heartburn
A year.
for a number of years. And the problem that we run into is we simply don't have enough full-time people on staff.
But you could get, you're talking future now, you said.
Right, yes, you're right. So maybe that is something that we look at, and we will need to budget for health insurance in the future. Right now, current staff is okay where they are and don't necessarily require it, but you're right, we probably do need to budget and need to find a source for it. That's just a tough nut to crack, but I know where you're coming
I
from.
know they have to be full-time, I realize that,
Yeah,
and we don't have one yet, but again, you were talking about future.
right, yeah.
Well, as the town grows too, then that opens up more opportunities, and then we'll see how it goes. But yeah, but you're right, I mean, that's how you do retention. At the end of the day, though, I'm the only full-time employee, and everything I've looked at so far, you have to have at least, I believe, 2 employees that are full-time, and we're just not there.
I thought you had to have 3 employees.
Or maybe 3.
At least one of them full-time.
It
It may have changed since I looked at
I haven't heard that one in that description. It started off at 3, then it went down to 2.
Yeah.
So,
And it probably changes, and like I said, I wasn't prepared for this, so I have no
right.
idea.
Sure.
And I've got it in the back of my head that it's 2 as well, so.
Yeah.
We'll get one.
Well, we'll
Oh,
work in
and
that
no,
direction.
if we could add, I mean, that'll be something as we go into 23 to 24. You know, I would love to add another full-time position somewhere. You know, I don't know where right now, but
Right.
I don't know what 23 and 24 will hold. Anything else? Mr. Nolan, anything as a member of the general public? Thank you. Council, any other questions? Staff, attorney? Okay. We will go on, we'll close out the public hearing and then go into the new business for our November 22 budget review. Floyd, you are on a roll, so I will let you keep on keeping on.
It's similar to what you've seen in the past so far, but I think we're being very healthy. We have, and everything I'm about to tell you now is going to be as of November 30th. So now we're about midway into December, so my numbers are going to be even better for you. But as of the end of last month, we had 231 in our SPOST account, which is 45% higher than what was projected. That's where we're standing now with the amounts we've received. We had an approved budget, if you allow, for 57 grand end of last month, and went up to 82 grand. So 45% higher. General fund is also extremely well. On our page 13, you'll see the page numbers at the bottom of the page, by the way. Page 13 is our income, and it says it's 115% of projected income. I mean, we're 15% higher than we thought we would be. I can tell you now that we're 18% plus. I've got some numbers I haven't calculated in yet, but my last batch was 18% high revenue. Couple of things about this. When it comes to real property tax, we just got a check for 13 grand. So we're actually going to do well there. That had me a little bit concerned with 9,000. That's the second line, by the way. Had me a little bit concerned about coming in lower than we should. We just got a check that's going to erase my concerns. We do have a couple of items in our expense. That's going to be on page 14 that went over budget at this point. We're a little bit over budget. Certainly we are with the lawn care and roadside trimming. Again, that wasn't in our budget per se, but that'll be fixed in a budget adjustment. In our about middle of the page, you're going to see repairs and maintenance to the building. We had 10 grand that was approved budget. We've now spent 14 grand. But the reason we're off is because we just wrote a $12,000 check for the renovation of this center. And it comes out of general fund. So that's why it's off. It's higher than what was budgeted, but that's also approved by council.
What line are you on, Floyd? I'm sorry.
It's going to be, the line number, it's going to be repairs and maintenance, 22,200.
Okay, I see it.
Right, and that's because we had a $12,000 check we just cut. And that's why it's off. And it's going to be over budget, but again, that was approved by council. Short of that, I think we're in pretty good shape. Certainly you have it in front if you have questions.
So one thing that I want to point out, and only because I tripped over it earlier, the money that we allocated to upgrade and improve the facilities, Floyd did a really good job on this. The 1/3 of it we're paying out of this budget, this year's budget, and then the other 2/3 will come out of the 23 budget, but it is reflected in the numbers that he has over here and on the other side. So
Yes.
it's not an additional amount to either year. We're taking that authorization and allocating it across 2 budget years.
That's correct.
Which is nifty work.
Well, I'll just blame that on the calendar and how it worked out.
Hey,
Hey,
look,
I'll take it.
for as much, if we get, for all the grief that we get for things we don't do in control, we should
Right.
certainly get the plus when we have
We
a
can
chance
take
to.
we can take the credit for that too. But yeah, but you see what I have. Also, at the end of November, 92% of the year was completed. And just to kind of show the numbers again, 115% was received. And at that point in time, including that $12,000 check, we paid 69% of projected expenses. So I think we're in good shape.
Awesome, thank you, sir. Any questions from council on the budget or the current budget? Okay. Moving on to old business, the Beckham House. Stan and I were able to talk with the family and just update them on some things. So what we are going to be doing is we will be presenting some quotes and/or bids to council to demolish the structure that is there. And from there, when they do that, they will leave it, grassed and smooth. And then we will get to think about and decide, what we want to do there and what that looks like. So please be thinking about that. I would like to save the well and possibly the well house that is there and use that for the watering and for the sprinkler system. There are a number of other, and I'm going to kind of segue into the back parking lot. And the park. And there are some other additional improvements that I would love to see out there at the park and pavilion, including the Beckham property. We'll just need to talk about that and envision it and just figure out what direction we want to go in. I think for right now, for the back parking lot, the couple of things that they have left to do, the fencing should be in. We're going to have the black chain link fence in between the parking lot in Arbor Valley, and then we're going to have a black chain link around the pavilion. Around the detention pond that's out there. I'm still waiting on quotes for more decorative fencing along the back side right there, and then over there between the Beckham house and the neighbor that lives right there on Main Street. I haven't gotten updated quotes on that yet from Clements, so I'll be bringing those in. The striping will still need to be done in the back parking lot. That is included in the contract. They will come back with Indian River Stone included in the contract for the drainage swale in there, and then the fencing is also included in the construction work. From there, we're going to have to probably do some topping off and maybe some sodding, just in some of the general areas that are where they put the curbs in, and just make that pretty. But we're not quite at the growing season yet, so we've got a little bit of time before we have to put down the grass or the sod or the whatever. The county is also, see if they've got a contractor that can plant the light poles that we had taken down. I think we've got 4 poles that are down that will need to be put back up on the back side. The county has agreed to look for us and to try to help us with that. It's just been real hard trying to find a contractor that can come out and do it, and one that's reasonable and can be timely and can do all the things that we really need to have done. So that should be, I would like to say to be completed in the next couple of weeks, but I just don't know what their schedule is. But I know that we've talked about it and it's on the drawing board. So I would love to say that by the end of the year, all those things would be finished. But those are the next 2 or 3 things that are going to happen.
How about benches out there around the wall? Any thoughts on those?
Not specifically, but I'm open to whatever you guys propose or want to throw out there. I know that we do have the one picnic table that was in the playground. We've got that, and I've moved it back over there, so it's out there. But the other benches that you're talking about around the walkway and maybe over by the container or by the fire pits or whatever, we do need to think about that.
Yeah. Might want to think too about, it's just an off the cuff comment. Might want to think about putting some chairs of some kind of by the flagpole out there, out by that cedar tree. That courtyard area up there. It looks kind of naked.
Yeah, it does. And two, I would like to do something with that area. Future uses, I'd like to see town hall extended in that footprint. But for now, it would be nice to have something there.
If you do something temporary, you move.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But those are the, is there anything else under the Beckham House or parking lot, Floyd, that you think I'm missing?
Well, you mentioned we're going to quotes. We already have 2 quotes.
Mhm.
We're gonna need to go for at least another, probably another couple more.
Mhm.
And then at that point, you can bring those quotes back to council for
Mhm.
consideration.
Yep.
Touch base with Slade.
Okay.
If nothing else, get a reality check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has more experience doing that than I do talking.
Tom, I didn't catch who it is you're referring to.
Elizabeth's husband.
Gotcha, okay.
And I think you ought to include having that place fumigated first too,
Mhm,
regardless of
okay.
who does it. Because it's absolutely full of rats.
Okay.
And I don't want to have them
Mhm.
migrate to my house
Yeah, I don't blame you.
or people's house
Anybody, yeah.
across the street or up here or
Mhm.
wherever.
Yeah.
Because they will do that.
No, you're absolutely right. Anytime we cut the field beside the house, I always have to remember to shut the garage door.
'Cause of mice, yeah.
Mm-hmm, you get the
Yeah.
field rats out there.
Yep.
Okay. Any,
That's the guy that did our excellences.
okay, good, thank you. Yeah, we'll get them a call and do it. Any other questions on the old business, previous business?
What is the expected finish date of the parking lot?
Eventually. I mean, I wish, and I wish that I could give a better answer. I would like to say within about the next 30 days, but it just depends on the weather and the county schedule and all that. But we're a lot closer than we were a couple months ago.
It looks good.
Yeah, it does. And while it has been an interesting experience and a learning experience, I'm really happy with the outcome. And I think as we continue to just make constant improvements, it's just going to get better and better and better and better.
Anything further on your rocks,
Um,
stones?
yes, I went out to Viney and looked at their Indian River Rock selection and just picked the Indian River Rock that they've got, and they're going to be doing it soon.
Oh, they are?
Yes, the county's going to do that for us.
Okay. All right. Another couple of rainstorms like we've had, and you might consider going down to Florida somewhere and getting some coral reef rock.
And letting them start building off of that. Yeah. Yeah, and I will say that the drainage soil is working very well. It backed up for a little bit with that real big rainstorm, but within about 6 hours it had drained. Just,
Really?
yes. In fact, you can see, well, I don't know.
You're talking about the little trench?
Yes. In fact, you can see the high water line that's around it, but I mean, just, and I checked it within about 6 hours, 80% of it had gone, filtered down and then gone in there.
Wonder what it's gonna take in the way of rainfall to cause that to overflow. Because I tell you what, I mean, it's amazing how much water comes off
Yeah.
this little bitty ridge right here. Our yard's a river, and it's not that big above it. There's nothing we do about it, but it's just
Doesn't all
mosquitoes.
this flow down toward your lake?
It does.
It all ends up down there.
And in fact, I've even noticed that our lake has been down a little bit with, I think, the detention pond there, but now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's down maybe about that much, I think. But,
No charge.
nope. So, do I have any questions from anybody in the audience? Okay. All right, so new business and old business being concluded, I will go down to the polling of council. Mr. Parton, anything? Mr. Teagle?
You got a power line between here and the church next door. It's about
Is it-
4 feet off the ground.
Is it still hanging? Okay, because
So
I've already reported it once.
Right, so I've actually talked to Georgia Power. They were supposed to come out and take a look, but they have not
I don't
reported
know, I
back
didn't know
on
if it was a
finding.
Georgia Power line or what.
See, we don't know either.
I don't know either. I know that I eyeball traced it and it goes straight to the power line.
Right.
And so long as it's got any potential of power, I don't want to mess with it. So
Well,
I've
I'm not gonna
notified
mess with it.
Georgia Power. They're aware. I haven't heard anything back, so I'm actually going to put that on a to-do to talk to them tomorrow as well.
Right.
Find out where we stand with that.
While you're talking to them, there's that, when they did all that work, Pike came there, did all that work. at the Triangle Retention Pond, that power line, direct, not across from my house, but the next house up, it's coming down pretty low too. And that's just slack. It's the time of the year and it should be slack, but it's not, that's a lot of slack in that line.
Okay. And I have also noticed over in front of the tattoo shop, if you are on the driveway that is directly in front of the tattoo shop, there is a wire that is hanging down that looks like it's part of another wire. I'm serious, it looks like it's the shielding around the wire and it's real low.
Yeah. I've
And,
seen that.
and
Is that looking like a Georgia Power type wire?
That looks like a fiber optics cable to me.
does it?
I've noticed that one before too.
And I just don't know who to, I mean, other than Georgia Power, I don't know who to call to ID it.
I mean, that's what when I called Georgia Power, I said, I'm not sure what this line is, but can you guys take a
They
look?
can look at it, when they look at it, they can tell you, it's not ours, it belongs to EMC or whatever.
And I'll be honest, there are, with all the undergrounding that they have started doing, I would really like to see them clean up some of these poles that they've got out there. If they've got dead lines on them, why do we need
Get rid of them.
20-year-old cable or
Well, you may have
telephone wire?
a
Historic
cable,
purposes.
you may have cable wire hooked up to them, you may have old AT&T phone lines hooked up to them, there's no telling what's on. It's not just old derelict electric lines. It may be, but I'd be
But not
surprised.
generally.
Yeah. Another thing too, while we're talking about wires, I haven't checked it, but don't we have a snagged wire in front of the, hanging off the library? And was that a cable?
I thought,
Cable company wire?
I'm gonna have to look, I don't know. The one wire that I thought was the one that, the guide wire that we pulled up that started the tug. Or was there another one?
Somebody came in there and replaced the one,
Mm-hmm.
and a box truck caught the second one. And
I hadn't
and it's
seen
coiled,
that.
it's coiled up right there next to between the courtyard and the library door.
Okay.
I know that Angie has been talking recently about her internet being slow. And so we reached out to VC3 to see if it was a computer issue. They figured out it wasn't. So what we're looking at now is potentially that wire. And what we're just trying to do is get Angie and Elston from Charter to come together so they can actually do it and see if there's
Well, I didn't want to
potential for that
send,
wire.
I didn't want to send Lewis in there with a wire cutter and have him chop into a 220 volt wire.
No.
I'm pretty sure it's cable.
Yeah, I kinda, yeah. Okay.
If she's having cable issues, like getting slow, first thing you do is go check all the connections outside because the weather changed, it got cold, and you'll get an RF and you get those things are loose. Just make sure they're tight. Like I do.
Okay. I'm okay with checking to see if they're tight. We're talking about RF leaks. I have no idea what we're talking about. But if they're tight,
It's
okay.
radio frequencies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Administrators minutes?
Yeah, a couple of things actually. So we talked about the budget. Just a reminder, if you have any tweaks, send them to me. We can work that out. Holiday schedule, a couple of things. We are scheduled literally for a work session a week from right now. I don't know that we're even going to have much at all to talk about. We've already covered a lot of stuff. Not to mention, I have a sense that we're not going to have possibly even a quorum. So my question is council willing to not have the work session next Monday?
Staff recommends canceling it.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick up in fact, the 2023 dates are already scheduled.
Yes,
We've
they
already
are.
got a schedule out, right?
2023 is already scheduled.
Yeah.
With regard to the holidays coming up, every municipality that I've looked into so far closes the Mondays after holidays. Christmas and New Year's are going to be on Sundays. So a recommendation is that we close up shop on the 26th and on January 2nd in recognition of the holidays. And then on the 27th, 28th, and 29th, that's Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we roll those back to half days.
Between Christmas and New Year.
Between Christmas and New Year. The logic behind it is, I was here for it last year, it was dead water. We got work done, but there was no business being done elsewhere. So my recommendation is no town hall functions on the 26th or January 2nd, and then half days in between Christmas and New Year.
I was done, by the way. I was done.
Oh, you were done? Oh, good.
I wasn't done yet, but
You were?
Are we good with those recommendations, council? You're good with them?
Okay.
Okay, sounds like we're good. Squirrel quotes. Last time I was here, I mentioned that there were squirrels in the attic. I was given authorization to spend up to $1,000. I've got 3 quotes. One of them is significantly less than we anticipated. Another is much higher than what was even authorized. I'm inclined to go with the lesser quote. However, I'm not convinced I'm talking apples and apples with them, so I'm going for clarity. If I do get if I do get the conviction that I'm talking apples and apples and we're going to get the quality work, then I'll go ahead and authorize it, and you'll be pleased. It's not going to be $1,000. But just letting you know, that's still in the works. Outside of that, is there anything else? Not really. We do need to start talking about the expenditure of our MIC funds. I have to write a letter to Georgia Department of Transportation saying we're going to roll in our 2020 and 2021 funds together. Per them, we need to spend that down by 2024, but there may be other reasons that we have to spend it quicker. So that's going to be coming as well, but I need you to be aware that that has to be considered. Okay?
Tom, you have something else from the polling to council?
Just a question, you mentioned something about Georgia Power and an electric vehicle plug-in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to kind of talk about that a minute?
Yes, during the planning stages of the back parking lot, one of the things that I would like to see added is just amenities that would benefit the citizens or town hall. Georgia Power can come in and put an EV charging station, one unit that'll serve 2 parking spots, and it's just there. People come in and plug in their electric vehicles and charge them while they're at the park or on a trip or coming through. It's just something extra to have. And it's the Georgia Power program, it's the Make Ready program. They come in, they do the planning, they do the maintenance, they install it, and they do it.
How about liability insurance?
They didn't mention anything specific about that. I would assume that it would be covered under our GERMA, but if it is their stand and their station, I would assume it would be their insurance or some kind of insurance. But specifically, I don't know.
I'd like to hear some more about the experiences they've had with it, because I'm not convinced that it's something we ought to be doing.
Yeah, they're charging the vehicle out there, and one catches fire, then what?
Well, yeah, or see a yard's cluttered up by people waiting to get in line to get charged up, because it takes 20 minutes to charge one up. There's just a lot of pitfalls to it that I just don't, a lot of questions that I'm just not convinced at this stage. I know one of the things, I look at those electric cars and I think, gosh, you want to go 400 miles, but it takes you 20 minutes to get charged up. And that's with the high power. There's a high power and a low power, and the high power is 20 minutes, and low power is longer than that. Do you want people in and out of here like all the time, like doing that? I mean, we don't have them. I mean, how many Teslas?
Well, I mean,
how many people in this town got a $80,000 Tesla?
I don't know, but out of the 10,000 people that come through this facility a year, there's probably a couple, and if they can do it while they're here. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just another amenity, just like having the playground or having the walking trail. It's just something nice to offer, something nice to have.
Yeah, you're dedicating 2 parking places for it. Because I'm sure that if I go in there and park it next to it, somebody's that wants to charge up their, electric Hummer is going to get pissed. Well, we can talk about it.
All right.
That's all I had. Hanging wires.
Anything else? Anything else? Okay. As for mayor's updates, anything extra that I had came up in the discussion throughout with the budget and the park and the Beckhams. So I don't have anything for the mayor's updates. If I can get a motion for adjournment.
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
Tom has the first, Dan has the second, all in favor, unanimous, thank you. We are adjourned.
That's a wrap.
Okay.